What's going on, guys? Algin Anastasia here at flightpath.com. So now that you guys got your Mavic 2 Pro or your Zoom, you want to get it ready, you unbox it, you did all this stuff, you watched the videos. I want to go through with you the steps that I took at home after I unboxed it to get it ready before I took my first flight in the field. Now this video is really geared towards more of the new DJI flyer. If you're an existing flyer and you guys have already flown a Mavic or a Phantom before, this will be really nothing new. It's more of a refresher video, so feel free to skip this video if you want to. But if not, stick around and I'm going to go through just some of the steps that I took to prepare my Mavic 2 Pro before its first flight. I've actually already done a bunch of Mavic 2 videos, so make sure you guys check out the playlist above. There's a bunch in there. Hopefully you guys can take away some good information from it. Now before we even get into setting up the drone itself, there's a couple topics we'll talk about, and the first one is FAA. Now what you'll want to do is, depending on where you are in the area where you're watching this video from, everyone has their different rules and regulations. In a past video I was saying that everyone had to register. Now in the US that might be true. Things change all the time, so I really recommend just looking into what are the rules and regulations as far as FAA goes for you to fly both as a hobbyist or even as a commercial pilot. Now the next thing we'll talk about is the DJI Care Refresh program. So if you guys don't know, there's a Care Refresh program for the Mavic 2 and the Mavic Zoom. So basically what that Care Refresh program is like a protection plan for your drone. For instance, if you were to crash it, if something were to break on it, it were to drop, it were to go into water, there's a protection plan which is called the Care Refresh program that I highly recommend doing, mainly because if something goes wrong with it, what you have to do is now send it back to DJI, and for a small fee, they're able to actually look at it, inspect it, and send you a replacement if it needs one. For the first year, you get up to 2 replacements. And the one thing a lot of people don't know about the Care Refresh program is you normally have to set it up within the first 48 hours of when you purchase and activate your account when you get your drone. But even if you bought a drone, a secondhand drone, or a drone from somewhere other store, some other person, you could technically still get the Care Refresh program. There's a whole list and information on the website, and I'll actually make sure those links are down below as well as in the description of what you have to do. Basically, what you'll start by doing is sending a video of your drone in action, working, everything is working properly. They're going to ask you for some information about the drone itself, but you can still technically get the DJI Care Refresh program on a drone even after that initial 48-hour activation. Now I'm going to go through with you the steps that I took just to make sure my drone is ready to go before I took it out into the field for the very first time. If you guys haven't watched the unboxing, make sure you guys watch that one first, because I go through what are the basic information about the drone. I'll talk about all the sensors, all the things that are different between this one and the Mavic. Make sure you guys watch that one first. This one is just the basic steps of the drone that you're going to want to take before you get it out into the field. And the first step we're going to talk about, of course, is just charging up your batteries. So once you get your drone, the first thing you want to do is press on these side clips right here and pull the battery straight out. Now you're always going to want to charge your battery for the first time. More than likely when you got it, it'll be empty. So if you have a full charge, you'll see all 4 bars lit up here. Half charge will just show half. But what you're going to want to do is make sure that before you do anything on the drone, you always want to make sure you have a full charged battery. So all you have to do is, of course, get the charger from the box, plug it in to the bottom of your battery just like that. And of course, besides the battery, you're going to want to charge the remote control. So all you have to do is grab the wire that comes out, which is a micro USB from the brick, and you can actually plug that into the side of your remote just like that. And then of course, just plug this into your wall. You're going to want a full battery for this because more than likely when you first get your drone, you're going to have some firmware updates, some software updates. You want to make sure that you have enough battery power to perform those updates. The next thing we'll do is remove the gimbal cover. A lot of people will just power it on and think they want to get up and flying right away. But just know that if you power this on when the cover is on here, you might damage that camera and gimbal, because when you turn on the battery for the first time, it actually goes through a sequence. And now if that gimbal cover is on there, you're going to be restricting the camera to go through that initial startup sequence. Now to remove the cover, all you have to do is turn the drone over, and there's a little flap here right at the very bottom. Just use your thumb to pull that up. And now you're going to disengage that clip right here in the front. And all you have to do now is open it up and then pull straight out. just like that. And to put it back on, all you have to do is take the swivel part and push it right on top of the camera first. What you want to do is have it right above that camera first, slide it through, and then there's going to be 2 little clips up top that you're going to latch on. Make sure those are in that hole, and then push the bottom, and then you can have the gimbal cover back on. Battery is charged, gimbal cover is off, everything looks good, but what you're going to want to do is really just actually take the time to inspect your drone. Now, of course, this thing's been shipped overseas. A lot of things get banged up. I'm sure if you guys saw my unboxing video, the initial box, the outer box was all beat up. So you just don't really know what your drone has been through to get to you. So what you want to do is just go through and inspect your drone, look for any, thing that might look out of the ordinary. Make sure that things aren't rattling around. What I normally do is I'll take my motors, give those a free spin just like that to make sure it doesn't sound, crunching inside there. Maybe some debris or dirt and got in there. But you want to do is just go through it, look for anything that might look out of the ordinary, any hairline cracks or anything like that that just doesn't seem right or seems out of place. More than likely when you guys got your drone, they didn't have the propellers on there. So what we'll want to do now is just install the propellers on all 4 arms. Some of them are going to have a white ring around it, and other ones will not have a white ring. It'll just be solid black. So what you want to do is look for the white ring on the propeller itself, and then look at the motor, and you'll see a white ring on the motor. Those of course go together, and then the black one will go onto the motor without a ring. Put it right over on top of the motor. Press down, and it's going to be spring loaded, so all you have to do is press down on it and then turn and make sure that they're locked into place. Do that on all 4 and we'll now have the propellers all set up. Now the next thing you want to do is pick up another micro SD card. I highly recommend a 32 or a 64 gig card. Now if you guys don't know, there's actually 8 gigs of storage built into the Mavic 2. But when you're out there flying and if you're shooting in 4K and you're taking a bunch of raw photos, you will fill up that internal storage really fast. So you're going to want to make sure you have enough storage room for other photos and video. You don't want to be out there shooting and next thing you know you're all filled up as far as internal storage and you did not get a memory card. Thank God that they actually did build in 8 gig storage, because I'll tell you that much, it's a huge lifesaver to know that you have some sort of backup. I personally have a 32 gig SanDisk card, Extreme Pro, in mine. I have a few of these cards just to make sure I have as backup. I'll leave all this information of what I'm currently using in the description down below. But just make sure you have that, because like I said, you will quickly fill up an 8 gig internal storage on here. It definitely is a lifesaver, but pick another one of them up. Pick up a few of these if you can. That way you have enough memory cards, and plus these are pretty cheap nowadays. If you guys have any other recommendations of cards, make sure you guys leave that in the comments down below. Let me know what you guys are using, but so far this thing's worked out pretty well. I haven't had any issues where the app is telling me that writing speeds are too slow or anything like that. So far so good on this one. Like I said, I'll leave that information down below. So now that we have the basic stuff covered as far as the drone goes, we have the batteries charged, the gimbal cover is off, we have the props installed, we have a memory card that's been updated. We'll now turn it over to getting your phone or tablet ready to go, as well as the software on both the remote control and on the drone ready. I talked a little bit about this in the unboxing, but what you're going to do now is pick a device that you're going to be using when you fly your Mavic 2. So once you choose your device, whether it's going to be a phone or a tablet, all you have to do is now get the corresponding cord from the case. There's a micro SD port here that you're going to plug into, which will now go into whichever device, iOS or Android phone that you're going to be using. Once you get that cord, all you have to do is plug it into the side. Then of course plug it into the bottom of your phone here, right there. And now you'll be connected as far as the remote goes. Or you have another option, and that is utilize the bottom USB right here. So this is the full-size USB. So in the case that you don't want to use this side one, you can actually use the bottom one. Now if you do decide to use the bottom USB, so for instance right here I have a USB cable which is now hooked up to my iPhone through a lightning cable. So what you can do is plug it in here and use this cord and plug it into the side of your phone just like that, And now you're able to utilize this cord. Now some of you guys might ask, what's the point of using this cord if you can use a side one? So whenever I just want to get a quick flight up, I will definitely just plug in the side right here and utilize the cord that comes with it. But if I do have some time to set up, I really like using tablets when I go flying. It just gives me a lot bigger of a picture, a lot easier for me to compose my shot, just an overall nice, big, bright screen. And what I've been using is actually the iPad Air 2, and this is connected to a Mav mount. You're able to put it right into the slot the same way you would put your phone. Plug in the USB at the very bottom, and now you have a nice big screen for you to easily compose your shot, and it feels really rock solid in your hands when you're flying just like this. But I've been using this mount for a little while now. I do have a bunch of other mounts, and I'm gonna do some other videos on those. But Mav Mount's is one of the ones that I've been using because it's just overall really solid. Fits in the grip really nicely, and it holds heavy iPads. I mean, this one does not move around. Some of the other ones that are out there are either too small of a clamp, or once you put it in here and if you had to move a little bit, the whole thing will start really shifting. So now that you got your device picked out, the next thing you want to do is make sure you guys are downloading the latest DJI Go 4 app from either the Android or the iOS store. Make sure you download the latest ones, that way you are up to date, and this is the app that you're going to be using to see all of your video and your footage in live view from the camera. Now that you've downloaded and installed the most recent DJI Go 4 app onto your device, let's power on the remote first, and then let's power on the Mavic 2. Now once you power up the app, you might have to go through a registration process if you've never registered your drone through DJI before. So there's some basic information you have to input, your email and stuff like that, to set up your DJI account. And there also can be a walkthrough or a quiz that you might have to take, which is pretty straightforward, which just goes through some of the basic questions about flying and some regulations. One of the questions a lot of people ask is, do I need to have a tablet or a mobile device that has to have cellular? And the answer in short is no, but you will need Wi-Fi or cellular service when you first register your drone. One of the benefits though, if you do have cellular service, like for instance if you're using your cell phone or you're using a tablet with cellular service, is that maps will load. You can also preload maps onto the app, but if you're flying somewhere, you will still be able to utilize maps. Maps will still pinpoint you and show you your point as far as your home point and things like that. But if you actually wanted to see the scenery just like you would in Google Maps, you'll need to have cellular service or Wi-Fi service when you're using your device. Once you're in the app, more than likely you might have to do a firmware update, and in the top left corner right here on the app is where you'll see if you need an update or not. If you do need an update, there's a red bar up top that'll show right here, letting you know that there's an update, whether it's firmware or software on the remote, that you'll need to do to perform to make sure that you're all up to date. I actually have another video, and I'll link that above, about doing firmware and software updates through the app. It's really straightforward, even though I did make another video for it, but there's really just a bunch of on-screen stuff that you'll need to follow in order for you to do that firmware update. Now, once your firmware is all updated, there's a couple things in the app that I'll bring some attention to, and that is calibrating your IMU and also calibrating your camera. Now this is always a kind of debatable subject that people have been talking about, mostly because in the app now it'll tell you if you need to calibrate your IMU or you need to calibrate your compass. Now if you don't know what IMU is inertial measurement unit, and it's basically electronic devices inside of your drone, such as the accelerometer and gyroscope, are those things that basically are keeping your drone balanced and in position. Now a lot of times if you hit something or accidentally crash it, or you just seem like the drone is drifting just a little bit, a lot of times those are IMU issues. So what you're going to want to do is just make sure that it's calibrated. Like I said, a lot of times people will say don't do any calibration unless the app tells you to. My recommendation, I think I've talked about this in some of my previous videos, is that you have a drone that has come from overseas, it's been banged around on shipping carts and everything like that. Ideally what I want to do is get it and now kind of reset everything. So what it's really doing is kind of resetting those devices inside that are keeping your drone balanced and stable in the air. The IMU and the gimbal calibration are things you can do here at home. Compass calibration is something you'll do right before you do your first flight out in the field. I wouldn't normally do a compass calibration here at home because of the fact there's so much interference, there's so much metal around that you're not going to get a real accurate compass calibration. So what I'll do now is just kind of quickly go through with you to show you where you want to do both your IMU and your gimbal calibration. Top right, you're going to go through the 3 dots, click on those 3 dots, and then what you want to do is the very first icon is the drone icon here. You're going to scroll down to the very bottom, it'll say Advanced Settings. When you get to Advanced Settings, you're going to click on Sensors. And then right here in Sensors now, it'll say IMU and Compass. So there's a button here right in the middle, so it's Calibrate IMU. Click on that. And what it's going to do is it's going to show you a photo of how they want you to position your drone in order for you to properly calibrate it. So what you're going to want to do is now place your Mavic 2 on a flat surface. Make sure it is a really flat surface, so a nice table will do well for you to do the calibration. You just want to make sure it is a flat surface for you to do both the IMU and for the gimbal calibration. So in order for you to do the calibration, you're going to have to emulate what the photo is showing you in the calibration screens. Once you do that, you're able to go on to the next screen and the next screen, and I'll show you right now. All we do is hit start, and now the photo is telling me to point my drone that way. Okay, now it's telling me to point my drone on its side and point it the other way, so I'll put it this way and on its side, just like that. Each time you do that, just wait for it to change. Now it just changed again. Now it's telling me to put my drone this way. Okay, now put the drone on its butt, point it up, and put the drone on its back facing this way. And there you go. As you can see in the app, it says IMU calibration complete, restart the aircraft. Okay, now the app is up and running. What you're going to do now is do a gimbal calibration, very similar to the IMU as far as the idea behind it. Let's just get everything recalibrated before we take it out. Click on those 3 dots at the top. At the very bottom here on the left, you're going to click on the camera. And then as you can see right here, it says gimbal auto calibration. Click on that. Now there's a little tips that come up, hit OK. And now same thing, make sure you're on a flat surface. It'll go through a gimbal calibration. The gimbal and camera will start moving and calibrating, so just leave it alone, don't touch it. You'll see your progress right here. There you go, gimbal is calibrated. So there it is, guys. Those are the first steps that I normally take when getting my drone ready to go. I just wanted to go through some of the core things that I think you'll need to know before you take it out. I'm more than likely going to be doing another first flight steps video like I did before with the Mavic Pro. I'll be doing one with the Mavic 2. But for now, check out the Mavic Pro's first flight setup. All the principles that I'm talking about in that previous video will work here on the DJI Mavic 2. I will do another update on that video, but for now, check that video out. It's what you're going to want to do when you take your drone out for the very first time in the field. That's about it for the setup video. I hope you guys got some value, and if you did, don't forget to smash that like button. And of course, if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified when I post new videos. This is Aldrin Estacio with FlightPath.com. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.